What if the board was late and the meeting started without us? Not really, Director Phillips, I see coming in. We were just at a meeting across the way, so come on up. And I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So I am officially calling this meeting to order tonight, Tuesday, December 11th. Pleased to see everyone out in the audience. And we're going to start off with call to order, and I'm going to start to my far left.
Jamie Appleton, Scholar Representative to the Board from Thomas Jefferson High School.
Lakeisha Phillips, Director, District 3.
Hiroshi Eto, Director, District 5.
Jeffrey McAnalloy, Director, District 1.
Claire Wilson, Director, District 2.
Tammy Campbell, Superintendent.
Logan Fraser, Board Representative, Federal Way High School.
Awesome. With that, I would like, if you can join me to please rise for the presentation of colors by Todd Beamer High School, JROTC.
Over. Art. Over. Halt. Order. Arms. Left. Face. Harry. Arms. Freeze and arms.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Harry. Arms. Order. Arms. Right. Face. Or. Arms. Forward. Arch.
You may be seated. I have to comment, it's not often that you see a color guard that is fully female, so very proud of that for Fedaway and the school district. So that was awesome to see tonight. I am looking for a motion from a member of the board for the approval of tonight's meeting agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approve the meeting agenda of December 11th, 2018 as submitted.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, I am looking for an approval for the required approvals agenda, formerly consent agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approve the required approvals agenda of December 11th, 2018 as submitted.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Let's just move on to the...
The assessment.
Tonight is December, and what that means, even in an off-election year, is that we do elections for our board positions. And for those that are maybe new to this, it will be a process we're going to go through right now, and then we'll move on to our recognitions and good news announcements, which is why many of you are here. And what I'll say is, as a board of 5, each of us has a vote. But you also always need somebody that's kind of steering the car or the truck, if you will, and making sure that we're headed in the right direction, and is the voice for the board when we speak as 5. And we each have our own thinking and the way we do things, but you'll also know once we make a decision and we support each other, and we support the superintendent, and that's our job, is to really have that board superintendent relationship and that with each other. So every December you'll see sometimes a shuffle of board positions, and it's also a way to really spread out leadership and to create depth and breadth and really opportunity for folks to share their leadership skills. So with that, we are going to start. And for 2 members of our board, it's a new process. So I will just refer you to your green motion page, and that will kind of take you through what the script is and what the process I'm going to take. I'll tell you, when we seat new positions, if there's a new president, the president will move to the new seat, and at that point, whoever takes that on will move forward with the meeting. And so that's how we're going to move forward. All right. So we're going to start tonight with board elections of officers, and I would like to call nominations for president. Are there any nominations for president?
I nominate Director Jeffrey McAnalloy for president.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
All right. Are there any other nominations for president? Are there any other nominations for president? Having heard a motion and a second, I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor and seating Director Jeffrey McAnalloy as president for the 18-19 school year, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion? I should have said that first. All right. Hearing none, and I will say I will very gladly pass that off, and I will move to my left. I want to thank the board, and I also want to thank Superintendent Campbell, and I want to thank our student representatives, and I'm just going to take a sec to say thank you also. It's much nicer to come and do board meetings when there's faces to look at and when there's great things to celebrate, and I know whoever's up on this board, we will continue to do that, and I just can't say how proud I am and have been to represent the district and will continue to as I move to my left. So that's what I'm going to do.
So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Director Wilson for her year of service as president, all that she did to lead us as a board, and the work that we've done over the last year, and look forward to what she will do in the House, in the Senate for us going forward around education and the needs we have within Federal Way. So thank you. Let's give her a round of applause. All right, so next is Vice President. So at this time, I would entertain any nominations for Vice President.
I'm going to nominate Director Trudy Davis, and my rationale is the fact that she has the longest tenure available to her amongst the remaining 5, in addition to President McAnalloy, and I think that continuity is important for this board. So if she will accept, I would like to nominate Director Trudy Davis.
I accept.
I'd like to second that nomination.
So I have a motion and a second. Do we have any other nominations for Vice President? Do we have any other nominations for Vice President? Hearing none, at this time I'll take a vote. All in favor of Director Davis as our new Vice President, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Director Davis. You will be our Vice President for the next year.
Wow.
You will take your seat to my left, please, as we play the shell
you
game.
can I should have just stood behind you.
Congratulations.
All right, at this time, I would accept nominations for legislative representative.
Now, given the fact that Director McAnalloy is also on the Washington State School Directors Association legislative committees, I want to recommend, if it's possible, to have Director McAnalloy also serve as our legislative representative.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Are there any other nominations for legislative rep? Are there any other nominations for legislative rep?
I nominate Lakeisha Phillips.
Looks like
Are you gonna
she
accept it?
declined.
I am not.
So she looks like she
She's
declined.
not going to accept it.
Thank you, I decline.
All right, so no further nominations. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will be the legislative rep for the next 2 years. It's a 2-year term on that one. Everything else is year term. So thank you very much. All right. So next, are there any nominations for our WASDA representative?
I would like to nominate Lakeisha Phillips for WASDA representative for Federal Way Board.
I have a motion for Director Phillips. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Are there any other nominations for WASDA representative? Are there any other nominations for WASDA representative? Hearing none, all in favor of Lakeisha Phillips as our WASDA representative, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Director Phillips, in your new
thank you.
position. And now, are there any nominations for WIAA representative?
I would like to nominate Trudy Davis.
I have a nomination for Director Davis. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
Are there any other nominations for WIAA representative? Are there any other nominations for WIA representative? Hearing none, all in favor of Director Director Davis? That was my fault. Director Davis is our WIAA representative. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Director
I
Davis.
think in my 8 years, we've never had anyone sit in that position, so I am very appreciative that we'll have representation, and I know our scholar athletes will also be thankful that you're taking that charge. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. So the last piece is that we'll ask for a motion of reaffirmation of our policies. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to accept that.
I move that all policies and adopted regulations are in full force and effect as they are now constituted, but are subject to individual review and revision as the need arises. And just for public knowledge, we do have a timeline and a review process for all of our policies and all of our regulations that are on a ongoing year-round basis.
Let's have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So the resolution 2018-19 signature auditory designation, I would entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve Resolution 2018-19, signature authority designation as submitted.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? And actually, I'm doing that out of order, so I'm going to recess that at this point. I was just following it, so I apologize. We've got too many things going on. So we'll recess that motion right now.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it
Yeah.
once we have presentation.
Yeah.
All right, so the next item on the agenda, which we actually passed, I'm going to go back to, is the board meeting assessment overview. So once, every 5 times in a year, we have a board member assess the board meeting and will give us feedback at the end of the board meeting. So Director Eto will assess our board meeting this evening, and at the end of the meeting, give us an evaluation of participation and balance and what we should do based on our policies as a board. So just wanted to make sure we're aware of that. All right, next, Dr. Campbell, Superintendent Recognition.
Yes. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge a partner who has really made a significant impact throughout the Federal Way Public Schools community. And today, I'd like to acknowledge the partnership between Federal Way Public Schools and the Korean School of Federal Way. I'm going to say a few remarks, and then at the end, I'm going to ask them to come up, and then we'll come down and present them with a special recognition. The City of Federal Way has one of the largest and most active Korean communities in the state, and it is a dynamic and essential part of the Federal Way community. Federal Way Public Schools, being one of the most, or the most diverse district in the state, with Korean as one of the top 7 languages spoken in our school district. We're proud of our partnership with the Korean School of Federal Way that supports opportunities to learn about the Korean language, its culture, and embraces the rich diversity in our district. The Korean School of Federal Way currently serves pre-kindergarten to 12th grade students as well as adults. And I have said I will soon be visiting on a Saturday to get some of my language instruction, as well as adults, and includes 214 students, at least half of which are Federal Way Public School scholars. In alignment with the strategic plan, Goal 3, active learners learning a world language about different cultures enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, as well as personal growth outside the classroom. Also, being multilingual is increasingly understood as a benefit for success in the 21st century workforce and aligns with the strategic plan, Goal 4. I would now like to invite Korean School of Federal Way Board Chair Michael Park and Principal Hee-Jung Lee to come forward so I can present you with your special award.
Jeffrey. Okay. Trudy.
Trudy.
Do you want to come up to the, up front here so we can get a picture? I'm afraid you were going to walk out the door. No, 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 you're up front.
Thank you so much for the partnership. It means the world to us.
The two of you might as well just stay there because why most of you are here are good news announcements, so that will be our next portion. All right, members of our high school boys and girls golf teams competed against 25 teams across the region and placed at the NPSL Golf Medalist Tournament. Scholars, when I call your school or name, please come forward to be recognized. Coaches and administrators that are here are welcome to come forward at that time too. We'll wait until all teams come forward and then take a photo. From Federal Way High School boys golf team, who tied for second with Enumclaw High School. Decatur High School girls golf team, who placed third. Decatur's Claire Yu won the NPSL Olympic Medalist Division and is the MVP for the second year in a row. She is also the top point earner in the league. Todd Beamer High School's Kelsey Yee placed third, and Kyla Yee placed fourth. Please come forward. Coaches and administrators, please come forward if you're here.
Way to go.
This accomplishment demonstrates the efforts of our scholar athletes to be active learners, engaged, empowered critical thinkers, goal 3 of our strategic plan. Congratulations, scholars. Keep up the great work. Oh, yes, the whole team probably should come up. Yes, so both, there you go. Yes, the whole team should come up. Absolutely.
Thank you.
We're going to definitely need 2 rows, so let's see how well we can do this. 2 rows, for sure you'll be in front. You're easy pickings. There we go.
Nicely done.
Actually, maybe 2 of you can come on. Where's Ben over here? Get back to the studio. There we go. Yeah, there we are. Okay. Awesome.
Tonight, we're here to celebrate Taft-Holly School of Distinction. That also highlights the strong partnership of Federal Way Public Schools and the Technology Access Foundation. For 6 consecutive years, Taft Academy was recognized as a school of distinction for its commitment to improving student outcomes. In its first year as Taft-Holly, the school has been recognized for a 7th consecutive year, receiving this distinction more than any other school in the Puget Sound region. You're going to have to wave when I say your names now that you all came up at one time. We would like to recognize Technology Access Foundation Executive Director and Founder, Trish Malines-DeZico, who couldn't be here tonight. And I'll tell you, her first book was just published around STEM by Taft and the work around that the Academy has been, the Foundation's been doing. Very proud to have them partner with us in this district. We'd like the following individuals who are standing up here to wave when I say your name. Heather Lechner, Technology Access Foundation Executive Director of Education. Amanda Kopchiniski, Kopchiniski, okay, Technology Access Foundation Director of Taft-Holly. Sarah Wilkes, Technology Access Foundation Program Manager for College Readiness. Pam Tuggle, Principal, and Christine Spencer, Principal. The School of Distinction recognition is awarded to the top 5% of schools statewide that demonstrate sustained improvement in English language arts, math, and our graduation rates over a 5-year period. Taft-Holly is one of 26 schools out of 331 schools in 10 school districts in Puget Sound Educational Service District region to earn this honor. This distinction supports the district's commitment to giving all scholars experiences in science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, STEAM, as indicated in Federal Way Public Schools Strategic Plan, Goal 5. As usual, congratulations, Taft-Holly, on this award. We are very proud of you.
We are proud of Illahee Middle School scholar Carter Mitchell, who was one of over 600 students selected from 1,659 of those who auditioned to participate in the Washington Music Educators Association Junior All-State Honor Band. Carter will be playing the euphonium. Carter, please come forward to be recognized. There he is. Teachers and administrators. This accomplishment is a direct support of Strategic Plan Goal 3, Active Learners. Way to go, Carter. We are proud of you. I had to Google it.
It's a small tuba. It's like a small tuba.
It's a small tuba. If people want to know, like us, what a euphonium is. You learn something new every day.
Sunnycrest Elementary School recently celebrated an exciting achievement. In September, Sunnycrest Roadrunners had an overall school attendance rate of 95.5%. That's 292 scholars who were in class, on time, every day, and ready to learn. The scholars who are here to represent the school, please come forward to be recognized. We also invite our Sunnycrest Elementary School staff to come forward as well. Perfect attendance is in support of the district-wide emphasis on Goal 2, Whole Child, Thriving, Confident, Responsible Individuals. Thank you to Sunnycrest for making attendance and student success a priority. Way to keep up the great work.
can't learn if you're not at school. You gotta be at school if you're going to be learning. I love it.
Congratulations.
Next, congratulations are due to Darren McKay, Todd Beamer High School's head football coach, who was selected as the Seattle Seahawks Coach of the Week. Go Hawks, yeah. As a result of this recognition, Todd Beamer High School received a $500 donation towards the football program. Coach McKay, please come forward. School administration officials also welcome to come forward. Coach McKay is known for modeling great sportsmanship and being a strong leader, which supported the football team's championships in the MPSL Mountain Division. Efforts such as this are in support of Strategic Goal 3, active learners, engaged, empowered, critical thinkers. Coach McKay, thanks for your commitment to the success of Todd Beamer High School scholar athletes. Congratulations. Congratulations to Todd Beamer High School's Jillian Whiting, who competed at the USA Powerlifting Raw Nationals Championship in Spokane and received a bronze medal in the women's teen 72 kilogram division. Jillian, please come forward to be recognized. School administrators are also welcome to come forward. Participation in extracurricular activities is in direct support of Strategic Goal 3, active learners, engaged, empowered, critical thinkers. We're very proud of you, Jillian. Congratulations.
I said, it's a night of the Titans. A lot of Todd Beamer scholars.
That's it.
Okay, it's your turn.
Oh, okay. No, it's because of you. It's because of you. It's another award. The scholars are going to go down.
So if our scholar representatives will go to the podium. We now have Because of You awards that they will present.
The scholars on the advisory to the superintendent created the Because of You award process, which allows scholars in grades 3 through 12 to nominate any educator in the Federal Way School District to be recognized by the superintendent in partnership with the school board. This allows educators who go above and beyond in supporting their scholars and positively impact their community to receive the recognition they deserve. Every month, all the nominations are reviewed by the advisory to the superintendent officers, and the most impactful nominees are chosen for this award. We will now acknowledge our Because of You award recipients. When the scholars who nominated the recipients' names are read, they are welcome to come forward and stand at the front.
We would like to call Dante Green, physical education teacher at Lakota Middle School, forward to be recognized. He was nominated by Isaac Cole and Alexis Hidalgo. Isaac shared Mr. Green taught him to keep trying to play new sports even if there are obstacles. Alexis stated Mr. Green made learning new things fun and encourages him to keep getting better. Because of you, Isaac and Alexis enjoy learning and will never give up on themselves. Next, we would like to call Oksana Schmiel, fifth grade teacher at Brigadoon Elementary, forward to be recognized. She was nominated by Nayeli Rosas. Nayeli shared Miss Schmiel was a really good teacher because she explained everything well and was always positive. Because of you, Nayeli has improved in many subjects including reading, math, and science. We would like to call Sabine Watson, fourth grade teacher at Lake Grove Elementary, forward to be recognized. She was nominated by Kamani Cleveland.
That's what it's all about, the difference you're making.
Kamani shared Miss Watson was encouraging and told her she could do anything if she put her mind to it. Kamani stated if she has a problem, Miss Watson would help her solve it. Because of you, Kamani knows she can do anything and she can be herself.
Sorry. 1, 2, 3.
We think these are some of the best awards because it's coming only from the students. That's why we did this, for this very thing right here. Awesome.
Next, we would like to call Cinda Russo, third grade teacher at Wildwood Elementary, forward to be recognized. She was nominated by Anaya Chand, Eva Monje Verduzco, and Elsie Caranya. Excuse me. Anya shared Miss Russo made an impact by being helpful to children. Eva said Miss Russo cared about her students and challenges them. Elsie shared Miss Russo was helpful, caring, and funny. Because of you, Anaya, Eva, and Elsie had a great third grade year. Finally, we would like to call Amy Rapata, assistant principal at Rainier View Elementary, forward to be recognized. She was nominated by Juan Masusi.
It's cool to see the expressions because you're surprised.
Juan shared Miss Rapata cared about all students and was willing to help in every possible way. She always saw Miss Rapata helping others with a big smile. Juan stated last year Miss Rapata went above and beyond to protect her from bullying. Because of you, Juan feels safe at school.
Now we'll give everyone a chance to exit that would like to exit. Thank you all for coming. Go from a full to an empty boardroom, but that's okay. We know homework and other things, and it's a school night, so thank you for coming.
No, you guys did a nice job.
So next item on the agenda is the legislative representative update. So the update I have for you this week is that we met yesterday. FRN is the Federal Relations Network, so it's the national component and the national arm. There will be many of us, probably about 40, that will go from Washington to the end of January to meet with our legislators on the Hill. And I suggested a couple months ago at a board meeting that with the coordinating members, so there's 11 different congressional districts, 10 congressional districts. There are coordinating members from each of those. We actually met on a call yesterday when we were at annual conference in November We prioritized what we believe were our top priorities. It's never been done before. So we have prioritized 18 of them, and the top 5 will be ones that we will take forward. Each of us will go back to the districts to get district input as what we will share as we go on the Hill at the end of January. And I think that's about it. We wait till January, right? So January 14th, they get sworn in and we begin our new biennium. We have our priorities as a district. The priorities from the state and WASDA are also set, and we are very aligned to those. Actually, our top 5 are in the top 8 of the state. So things are very aligned, and hopefully we can get some movement and some money that needs to really flow to Federal Way and make that happen this year in this next biennium. Right, Senator Wilson? All right, so next item on the agenda is public comment. So there are blue sheets on the back table if you're open to wanting to make public comment. I just need to remind you that public comment is kept to 3 minutes. If you go beyond the 3 minutes, I will gavel you and ask you to stop because that is your time limit. So our first this evening is Katie Luther on the Run, Hide, Fight video.
Good evening, Board President McAnally, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Campbell. My name is Katie Luther, and I am a parent of a first grader in the district. I am here tonight to talk about the Run, Hide, Fight program implementation and to ask the board to provide oversight in the process. I understand that the superintendent is responsible for translating policy into action. Even so, the board should provide feedback and oversight in the process of implementing Run, Hide, Fight. Per the board's policy, the board will ensure that there is a mechanism in place to provide input, dialogue, and support to the superintendent by monitoring the superintendent's results through the board monitoring policy, being available to the superintendent to discuss matters at a reasonable request to the superintendent, and to give informal input. On November 30th, I received a notice from my son's elementary school that the district was rolling out Run, Hide, Fight video training in all classrooms prior to the holiday break. This video, although it was taken down by the evening of November 30th, was designed to be used in each and every classroom. I was alarmed that the video was not age-specific. I cannot think of another curriculum that is shared between kindergartners and high schoolers. Per the National Association of School Psychologists and School Resource Officers 2014 Best Practice Considerations, for schools in active shooter and other armed assailant drills, schools must target crisis training activities to the developmental and awareness levels of students. They recommend these specific developmental considerations, which I will quote. Developmentally typical knowledge, meaning that what kids know and understand about school-associated dangers. Developmentally typical capabilities, what kids are able to do in response to school-associated dangers. These then inform the developmentally appropriate safety activities. Additionally, they recommend that parents should be given the opportunity to preview these materials. In the initial rollout of Run, Hide, Fight, the aforementioned recommendations were not followed. I am pleased that the superintendent's office listened to parent concerns and changed the curriculum over the past week to be more age appropriate. But 1 week of quick adaptations is not sufficient. We all have the same goal. We all want our kids to be safe at school, but this must be done in a thoughtful manner. I ask that the superintendent's office, with oversight and support from the school board, is transparent about their choice of Run, Hide, Fight, and they are transparent in the implementation of the program. Moving forward, as we work together for a successful solution, I ask that the district's safety curriculum follows best practices, is developmentally appropriate, is thoughtfully designed, in addition to consulting with law enforcement, that it is vetted by principals, school counselors, and teachers who will have to deliver the curriculum and deal with the consequences if it is poorly designed, and that it is reviewed by parents in advance of the implementation. The school board writes that parents and guardians are equal partners in education and are treated as such. Please ensure that parents are treated as equal partners in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Claire Morris Clark on Run, Hide, Fight.
Good evening, President McAnally, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Campbell. I am the parent and guardian of elementary and high school students in the district, and I'm here to speak in regards to Run, Hide, Fight. I would like to focus on 2 specific concerns. First, the instruction of minor children to be prepared to fight, and the district's choice to use an opt-out approach instead of an opt-in approach. First, some direct language from the video, which the district is in the midst of showing to students. Fight may be your only option, so be ready to act. To be effective, use all your strength and speed to bring down the assailant. You must commit to your actions and do not stop until the threat has been stopped. The Run, Fight, Hide curriculum was originally developed as a response to workplace violence. The curriculum was developed for adults using adult language and adult concepts, such as physically fighting an armed attacker. Consider now that we are sharing these same approaches with minor children, telling them that fight might be your only option, telling 80-pound 11-year-olds to be effective, use all your strength and speed to bring down the assailant, and do not stop until the threat has been stopped. It is imprudent to tell unarmed children that they need to make a decision to fight an armed and dangerous attacker and to commit to their actions. It is absurd to think that the actions of unarmed minors throwing textbooks will result in anything other than tragedy. It is extremely limited to use language presenting physical confrontation with an armed attacker as the only option in any situation. Curriculum using fight language was developed by adults for adults. We are instructing minors we consider too young to drive or vote on how to weaponize a classroom. Statistically speaking, it is far more likely they will use this knowledge against a fellow classmate rather than an armed assailant. I encourage the district to provide concrete documentation of all due diligence it has conducted in vetting this curriculum for use with minors. Consultation with law enforcement departments is insufficient. Child psychologists and child development experts must also be consulted. Secondly, I urge the district to adopt best practices by making all Run, Hide, Fight training specifically an opt-in program. Parents have the right to be fully informed about this curriculum. Many schools are giving parents less than 48 hours of notice. This was true for Decatur, where one of my students attends. This is insufficient time for parents to make an informed decision on this curriculum. In order to ensure that parents are fully informed about the content and all of their options, the district should require signed consent from families prior to student participation. If the district is confident about the curriculum and parent response, it will warmly embrace a decision that ensures fully informed consent, which an opt-in is the only way to do.
Thank you.
And I did not complete my comments, so I have copies for the board if I may bring those to you.
Sure. Dr. Danny Pfeiffer, Deputy Superintendent, Run, Hide, Fight Implementation.
Board President McAnally, members of the board, and Dr. Campbell, I'd like to outline our work as it relates to Run, Hide, Fight. And I'll outline it in three big buckets. Why we need to provide the training, what the Run, Hide, Fight training is, and how we are rolling out the training. First, let's look at the why. This training is part of a comprehensive emergency safety plan. As you are aware, we practice fire drills, lockdown drills, and evacuations for preparedness in the event of an emergency. That is no different. We have the obligation to ensure students and staff are prepared, have options, and use a framework in a very unlikely event of an active assailant emergency on one of our campuses. In addition, we have had staff, parents, and community members over the course of the last year and a half ask what Federal Way Public Schools was doing to ensure staff and students were properly trained in the event of an active shooter. Next is the what. For context, Run, Hide, Fight is nationally recognized and endorsed model. Organizations such as the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, FBI, law enforcement, Washington State Patrol, and local law enforcement, Federal Police Department, endorse this framework. Additionally, it is used by districts across the nation, across the state, and locally: Kent, Auburn, Issaquah, Shoreline, Tacoma, and Puyallup, to name a few. While the training methods vary and in some instances may be adapted, the framework is the same. Finally, how we're implementing the training. This training began over a year ago when our Department of Safety and Security partnered with the Federal Way Police Department to identify and develop training materials that were being used by our other school districts to train staff and students on Run, Hide, Fight. In the spring and fall, our Director of Safety and Security, our communications team, Federal Way Police Department, and myself began our work in discussing, planning, and identifying training materials for our students across all schools. Our team developed a video assuring consistency of training across our schools. Principals were shown the video on November 15th with a parent letter for their review. On November 20th, the link to the video as well as the parent letter and supporting classroom discussion frame was provided to principals. Principals were asked to show the video to staff, review the supporting classroom discussion, identify a date and time for students' training, and send the letter home to parents with the video link so that parents could review. As the parent letter, we asked parents to review the video. We wanted to use this viewing as time to gather one last round of feedback on implementation. Recognizing that each scholar comes with unique circumstances and backgrounds, we shared that if the scholar needed additional support during the training, counseling services would be available. Additionally, we offered parents three options: one, to allow their scholar to participate fully in training; two, join the scholar during the training; and three, while we don't recommend or encourage this, opt their scholar out. After parents received the letter, we received two parent concerns at the district office about the developmental appropriateness of our elementary school students. We responded immediately, taking down the video, re-engaging our police partners, re-evaluating the content, and ultimately refining our resources. It is important to note that at this time, no elementary school student has seen the video. Moreover, we will be gathering a parent focus group next week to provide feedback to inform our rollout of the elementary training model focused on run and hide aspect. By and large, the feedback that we have received has been gratitude from parents, staff, and students across the district, thanking us for proactively training our students and staff. Oh, sorry, I saw 20. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next are school reports. So why don't we start to my right? Logan?
The Scholar Advisory Team's reports to start the jolly month of December have focused on how scholars are doing more. Schools have begun charitable drives to inspire further involvement in the community, an excellent way to show that scholars aspire to go beyond themselves. Federal Way High School's grand opening night was another great way to highlight scholars' achievement. There were some concerns expressed by teachers in the night's planning. The night did, however, carry on as planned and was seen as a great success. The new auditorium and the new school is a sight to behold. Meanwhile, the district has continued to support scholars in their post-secondary endeavors, and this support is felt without question. In the spirit, please continue to give us your support so we can see just how much we can do.
Thank you, Logan. Jamie?
Good evening. As we move into December and grow closer to the end of the semester, scholars throughout the district are beginning to feel a bit overwhelmed with various responsibilities. Yet we are looking forward to the holiday season and the festive school activities. Quite a few scholars have reported raised tensions and stress within their schools as the semester is nearing an end, and have noticed a dip in school activity. For example, a scholar from Todd Beamer High School noted that scholars appeared to be more stressed and that fights were breaking out. However, they are planning school spirit activities for their mentee and mentor meetings, and are additionally planning to advertise the availability of school counselors to whom they can talk to and express any frustration. A scholar from the advisory team was concerned with safety in our schools due to scattered and isolated events at various high schools and middle schools. With this feedback, administrators are vigilant and listen to scholar concerns. It should also be noted that high school scholars watched a video last Friday discussing the procedures in the event an active assailant is on school campus. This was helpful to many scholars and shows that the district is intent on keeping scholars safe and secure. Not to mention, at Illahee Middle School, after noticing tensions within the classroom, a teacher set up a positivity circle in which scholars complimented each other. The scholar who participated noted that this was largely beneficial for her class and caused scholars to feel more connected with each other. Schools throughout the district are also preparing for the holiday season. The Federal Way Public Academy is hosting the Festival of Giving. Kylo is putting on the Season of Giving, and Thomas Jefferson High School is throwing the Spirit of Giving and Holiday Helpers. Clearly, all of these events have a common theme of giving and are offering scholars the opportunity to do acts of good this holiday season. Each of these events involves scholars bringing gifts to school for other classmates or for the local community. Scholars from the various schools that host these events have noted that they increase involvement, connection, and positivity within the school, and I believe they will be effective in combating the semester slump scholars appear to be experiencing. Overall, scholars have faced a few challenges within their schools and are looking forward to the approaching holiday season and break.
Great, thank you. All right, next is superintendent comments. Dr. Campbell?
I just want to pick up on the scholar comments. They get feedback from every school, at our secondary schools, 2 write-ups, and they take those write-ups and create their summary reports. They're really reflecting on the voice of scholars all across the district, and I want to thank both of you for that. I want to thank the board as well as our team for what I would say was a very successful launch of the grand opening at Federal Way High School. It was very well attended, and I could tell from our community when they came in that room, people were just absolutely amazed at the level of quality and what this new facility is going to offer our scholars. I know, Logan, you had a key part to play in being a leadership and speaking at the event. I want to thank you for that. But we know that facilities really do make the difference in terms of scholars feeling pride, and hearing that young scholar who spoke on the stage talk about what that school meant to her really does illustrate what's so important about scholar voice. So thank you, board members. This was a long journey getting Federal Way High School opened. I want to thank the team for all of their efforts. I want to thank Mike and Casey and the construction folks at Green Gazaway, Spee West, Sally, and the folks in finance, the learning improvement officers, Dr. Pfeiffer, all of you who've worked so diligently to get that off the ground. I remember when I first came here as superintendent, we just had portables all out back, and it was hard to see how this was all going to come together, and it truly has. I want to also offer this up to our schools who are going to be in the middle of construction, that there are periods where it may feel like, oh boy, why did we do this? But on the other side of it is a really positive. And what I would say is you're talking about, at a minimum, a 50-year commitment in terms of facility. And so that building will be here when many of us are gone. So just hats off to the team on that. I want to also congratulate our schools. You know, our conference rates are something that we really monitor, and our metrics for that. And this idea around having parents at the table is so critical if we're going to improve student learning. And what I think I heard, James, we've got a higher percentage this year than we did last year, and that happens every year. So that means if parents are at the table, they're going to be able to hear and get feedback on how to partner with the school. I want to encourage parents to continue to go on Parent View. Those grades should be updated by your classroom teacher. And that's our commitment to you. At our conferences this last 2 years, we provided standard reports that include the standard progress report that comes out of Parent View. So again, parents, I think, Paul, we're at 83%. What's the? 84.14% of our parents are actually signed up for Parent View. I think that's another metric that we really want to ensure our parents are utilizing, and we want that to be 100%. That really is our goal. But I think it was 2 years ago we were at about, where were we? 35%. So we've gone from 35% to almost 8 out of every 10 of our parents being signed up to look and check on the progress monitoring of their scholars. I also want to just say that it's that time of year where it's so important for folks to sort of, I say, refocus, get clear about why you're in this work. You know, we're almost halfway in, the year races by, and to keep our eye on our young people. I want to also acknowledge Director Wilson's work as president. You truly have been a champion of policy governance. And having you and Jeffrey in those roles over the last few years has really been important. And I know you've got really important work to do, but I want to thank you for your work as president and tell you how much it's been appreciated. And may your wings sort of take you on to that next place in terms of the work that you're going to do at the state level. So I just want to thank you again. I also want to thank the City Council. I was told that they adopted our legislative priorities in full. That's the first time that's ever happened, and I think that's an important signal about where we're headed as a city, because ultimately, good schools are the result of a vibrant city that is focused on what it takes to make the schools really run. And I was really proud when the mayor told me that the City Council and the mayor had worked together to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, school board comments. Director Wilson, would you like to start us this evening?
It seems like forever ago, but we did do a board retreat to kind of welcome our newest two board members, Director Davis and Director Phillips, now Vice President Davis, in Spokane for the State Association Conference, and it was an opportunity just to spend some time together. And I know Director Eto was not able to join us, but I think as just getting things on the ground and getting us started, it was a great opportunity, and I know we will continue to work together as a team. Just wanted to mention, in the community, there's some volunteer opportunities, and this is a time of year where it is really important to keep your eye on kids and ask them how they're doing, and really ask them how they're doing and listen to what they say. Just an opportunity to think about being a mentor in our Mentor and Me program. This is my third year, and the young woman that I've been working with is someone new. You would never know she was the same person that I came to know 3 years ago, and that's because when important adults care about someone and they know you care, they rise to amazing occasions. Also, Federal Way Cares for Kids is another opportunity locally in this community. It's happening this weekend, but it will directly benefit the young scholars here in Federal Way, and there's opportunities to volunteer on their website if that interests you. And I just think it's really important to think about how we create that sense of community for many that may not have that. I also was going to say thank you to the City of Federal Way for adding the school district priorities, because it is the first time there's ever been an understanding that we have some mission and vision alignment, and that the work that we're doing is the work we all should be doing. I know they also have wondered and asked, and as a board we can think about adding some of an issue that they put on their agenda, which is around airport noise, hard to say. And one might wonder what that has to do with education and with scholars, and I look at it from a public health perspective, and there's something called unnatural consequences, and oftentimes communities of color, low-income communities, are negatively impacted by our environmental issues, and we know we have a huge amount of increase in air traffic, and that means particulates, that means noise, that means families that are getting uninterrupted sleep. And so I know it's something that many people speak of, and I think initially it was seen as kind of an issue of privilege, if you will, and one that was only experienced by folks that lived on the water. But in my travels over the last 9 or 10 months, it really doesn't matter where you are in Federal Way or in the greater area in South King County, people are being impacted by that. So it's something that we might want to think about or consider. I just also want to respond to the conversation around the recent, just the feedback we had from parents, and just want them to know that the board was very much involved in knowing what was going on, and that the district was very responsive to the concerns that were put out by parents once the emails had been sent, and that it is very appropriate to consider that we need to do this. It's very unfortunate, and it's very frightening for many, but we had parents that spoke very loudly about the need to prepare for what we've never had to prepare for before, and I appreciate the responsiveness. I appreciate the listening and pulling away from and listening to and including families in, but I also know that oftentimes those that speak the loudest aren't here. The ones that need us and believe what we're doing is right may not be here to speak out. So we need to speak on behalf of those families that we don't see as well. Last thing I will just say, Federal Way High School Eagle Pride soared that night, and there were parents there were students that were parents, that were grandparents that had been in that school, and were impressed by the transition between the gym and the building and the Eagle, and felt like there was some preservation. That was a huge issue on the rebuild, was how we were going to preserve some of that. And so anyway, just very, very proud, and have continued to hear that from the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice President Davis? No comments? Director Eto?
Thank you so much.
I was really appreciative of the insights that were offered by the public on the Run, Hide, Fight, including our own Dr. Pfeiffer. Overall, the key point for me was the fact that we continue an inclusive process, transparent process that the Office of the Superintendent has done on any key policy issues that they're dealing with at an operational level, and that I appreciate very much. The question relative to opt-in versus opt-out was a nuance that was beyond me, but I'm sure that given the right folks at the table, that outcome will be fine. I want to give us a shout out to Logan Frazier, who was the MC at the ribbon cutting. He did a great job for the very first entertainment event at the auditorium, which really amazed the folks that were walking in to that facility. So they see the quality of the work, and I'm sure it's going to raise the enthusiasm level for all the new construction that we have going on, including the Thomas Jefferson High School. So it was a great event, and it was great to see the community come out and see what they paid for.
That's right.
And have an insight as to what they're going to be getting in the future.
That's right.
All very good.
Thank you. Director Phillips?
I think most of the things that we're thinking were said, but I do want to reiterate thank you, not only the superintendent, but everybody at the school district for the work around safety. I think that is a huge conversation in the community, and quite a few parents showed their appreciation. Some had concerns, but they were glad that people were really looking into it. So I really appreciate the work there. And those parents also sharing their experience. I also wanted to share that the opening at the high school was phenomenal. I thought it was just great to hear about so many people who wanted to be there. I drop off my son at daycare, and I feel like we've replaced our water cooler with the daycare parking lot. But there were quite a few alumni students. There were quite a few alumni parents that were really excited to come back and see the place, and it was just awesome to see how excited people were. And again, capturing that centerpiece just meant a lot to a lot of people. So just excellent work. Thanks everybody for all the preparation that went into that.
So I don't have a lot of additional things to say. I will say that the safety issue started 18 months ago, right, Dr. Campbell? When we sat down and had some parents really concerned and community members really concerned about what we were doing and the things that needed to be doing. So the culmination of to where we are today is an 18-month process that the district's looking at and making sure we can do everything we can to keep our scholars safe. It's also amazing that I remember 2013 when I started, it was pretty much when we approved pretty close to my start time on what we would do with Federal Way High School. So to see it to come to a culmination. The other thing is, again, thank you to our community. You know, by the time we're done with our second bond, 25% of our schools will be rebuilt, and it will be a huge difference in 6 or 7 years when we see that piece. There will be some pain points and things we go through, as you talked about, Dr. Campbell. It always is. And anything you do and change, and when you're having to off-site scholars and do all those changes as we have to rebuild, it's just part of the process. But thank you to the community for your confidence in what we need to do, and also supporting our scholars to make sure that they can be 21st century learners. All right, next item is Resolution 2018-19. So this is the motion that I actually suspended. So Director Wilson, if you'd read our resolution for us.
Resolution number 2018-19, signature authority designation. Whereas the Federal Way Public Schools District 210 will apply to the Superintendent of Public Instruction for state funding assistance for school construction purposes pursuant to Chapter 392 WAC, as well as reimbursement for other state grants related to capital construction projects. And whereas WAC 392-344-120 requires school districts to provide the Superintendent of Public Instruction with the certified signatures of district personnel authorized by board resolution for purposes outlined in Chapter 392 WAC. Now therefore be it resolved that the following district employees are designated as authorized representatives to sign any and all document relating to Superintendent of Public Instruction D forms for state construction assistance and other state grant reimbursements, underneath which Dr. Tammy Campbell, Superintendent, is listed. Adopted by the Board of Directors of the Federal Way Public Schools, District Number 210, King County, Washington, in a regular meeting held on the 11th day of December, 2018.
All right, so I will bring that suspension back. Any discussion, board members? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Director Wilson, 2018-20. Actually, it'll be 20, 21, and 22. It's just the same resolution for 3 different schools.
Resolution number 2018 is Lake Grove, 2018-20 Lake Grove, 2018-21 Mirror Lake, 2018-22 is Wildwood Elementary, and the verbiage is all the same.
And really quickly, just to
Yes.
say, this resolution is about the fact that when we build these new schools, we're not aggravating or creating a racial imbalance. We have to attest to that. That's what this is saying.
So whereas racial imbalance as defined in WAC 392-342-025 does not presently exist at Lake Grove Elementary School, and whereas Federal Way School District Number 210 has undertaken a project to replace Lake Grove Elementary School, and whereas the Federal Way School District attendance policies will not be revised or changed as a result of the Lake Grove Elementary School project. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to WAC 392-342-025, that Lake Grove Elementary School project will not create or aggravate racial imbalance within the boundaries of the Federal Way School District. Adopted by the Board of Directors of the Federal Way Public School District Number 210, King County, Washington, in a regular board meeting held on the 11th day of December, 2018. Again, the same would be for the motion for Lake Grove, for Mirror Lake, and for Wildwood Elementaries, with 3 different resolution numbers.
Great. This time I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve resolutions 2018-20 for Lake Grove Elementary, 2018-21 for Mirror Lake Elementary, 2018-22 for Wildwood Elementary School. No racial imbalance, resolution 2018-20, 21, and 22 as submitted.
The motion, do I hear a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Right, next item on the agenda is the N1's presentation. Dr. Campbell.
At this time, I'd like to invite up Deputy Superintendent Dr. Pfeiffer, Chief Academic Officer James Crawford. This is part 2 of a presentation that was begun at a work study, and they will share our progress as it relates to ENS1. ENS1 really is about Goal 5 in our strategic plan. And if I would say there's any indication of the work that's happening in the district and how we've moved the needle, it's this particular ENS.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Board President McAnally, members of the board, and Dr. Campbell, it's our pleasure this evening to celebrate with you some progress that we've made towards ENS 1. Joining me this evening is James Crawford, our Chief Academic Officer. So the purpose is really to provide that interpretation and then the evidence of Sub-ENS 1 reflective of our 2017-18 school year. In review, Sub-EN 1 is reflective of graduation and advancement, and more specifically that each scholar will graduate with the prerequisite skills and confidence to access college, career, and other post-secondary experiences. For us, Sub-ENS 1, each scholar graduation advancement is critical sub-end, measuring the ultimate outcome for Federal Way Public Schools, students' readiness for post-secondary pursuits. This interpretation uses the framework by national expert David Conley, and these 4 factors straddle all grade levels and illustrate readiness from P through 20 perspective. This visual depicts the 4 aspects of college and career readiness. Key cognitive strategies, which is really about that critical thinking as a prerequisite skill. Key content around our standards, right? Math, ELA, and science. academic behaviors, those learning behaviors, being able to think about your thinking, reflect, and study. And then lastly, the contextual skills and awareness around privileged knowledge. Do I know how to access resource, both financial? Do I know how to plan accordingly for my college career? And can I seek assistance? In selecting our data that will inform Sub-N1, research indicates that selected data draw on 3 areas: student course completion and success, achievement and attainment through PK-12, and then post-secondary education. During our 18-19 school year, we will continue to establish and as well as collect data to inform, to use the 2017 results to benchmark against. In measuring our targets towards N1's progress, each measure of progress in tonight's presentation will be rated. As we review the data, you will notice we are reviewing 15-16 and 16-17 data in order for you to see the progress we're making as district-wide against our 17-18 measures that are reflective of N1. As we triangulate our data, we will use the same indicators that are used for our school cards to determine our level of progress. These levels of progress are excelling, achieving, developing, and emerging. Throughout this presentation, for each measure of progress, we will note what our current level of progress is. For example, excelling will indicate that we have progressed on the measure according to our district goals, as well as compared to our districts in the region, state, and our nation. Achieving will indicate that we have progressed either against our district goals or as compared to other districts, but not both. Developing will indicate that we are making progress, but have not yet met our district goals. And emerging will indicate that we're not making progress on the measures and are also lagging behind other districts. Goal 5 of our strategic plan includes measures of progress that inform Sub-N1. The Goal 5 measures of progress we will review this evening are 1, the percent of 9th grade scholars on track for on-time graduation; 2, the percent of scholars who complete applications for college-bound scholarships and FAFSA; and finally, 3, increase in high school graduation and our overall decrease in dropout rates. The first measure of progress for Goal 5 that we will look at is the percent of 9th grade scholars on track and on time for graduation. To measure our progress, we will review the percent of 9th grade scholars who earned 6.5 credits. As we go through this presentation, you will see the blue bar indicates 2015-16 data, the purple bar indicates 2016-17, and the green bar indicates 2017-18. The numbers inside each bar are the number of scholars meeting that target. Please note that per FERPA law, if a particular subgroup has an N count that is less than 10, the 2 lowest subgroups will be suppressed, and the data is suppressed also if a subgroup performs 95% or higher, or 5% or lower. Okay? So for this first metric, we are looking at the percent of grade scholars on track for on-time graduation. On-time is defined as graduating within 4 years, and the credit requirement for graduation is 26 credits, earned in 6.5 per year. To be considered on track for graduation, 9th graders needed to earn at least 6.5 credits. In comparing data, you will see at the end of the 2015-16 school year, 81% of our grade 9 scholars were on track for graduation, which is 1,314 scholars. At the end of 16-17, 84% of 9th grade scholars were on track for on-time graduation, and at the end of 2017-18 school year, 87% were on track. This is a 3% increase from last year and a 6% point increase from the 2015 school year. The black subgroup has the largest increase with 0.7 points. Okay. In looking at our other subgroups for this metric, we see that the 9th grade scholars receiving special education services had the largest increase with 0.9%, and scholars receiving ELL services also increased their on-track rate by 8%. Looking at this data by area, each comprehensive high school has increased the percent of 9th grade scholars on track. Area 4, TJ, has the highest percentage of 94%, and Area 1, Todd Beamer High School, has the greatest increase of 7. The next measure of progress for Goal 5 that we'll look at is the percent of scholars who completed applications for college-bound scholarship, FAFSA and WASFA. The measure our progress, we will review the percent of eligible 8th graders who submit their college-bound scholarships, the percent of 12th graders who submit a free application, and it's important to note that we're still waiting on our college-bound scholarship data verified as of December 15th. So for this measure of progress, we will first look at the percentage of scholars who completed college-bound scholarships overall by the district. You'll see that the 2015-16 overall percentage of 7th and 8th graders, let me get that off of there, who completed college-bound scholarships was 82%. The 2016-17 rate has increased 5% points to 87%, and this indicates that we're excelling on this measure. By area, Area 1 and 2 schools improved, Area 3 decreased, and Area 4 has held steady. For this measure of progress, we will also first look at the percent of scholars who completed college-bound scholarships overall by district. You will see that the 2015-16 overall percentage of 8th grade scholars who completed college-bound scholarships was 82%. The 2016-17 rate has increased 5 percentage points to 87%. Federal Way is performing at the highest rate in our region. That's something to really be celebrated. And this increase indicates that we met this measure of our progress. This set of data shows the 2015-16, 16-17, and 17-18 FAFSA submittal rate for Federal Way overall and for each comprehensive high school. FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. FAFSA application rates are used to show how many scholars are planning to attend college. The percentage of 12th grade scholars submitting FAFSA during the 2017-18 school year for Federal Way Public Schools was 64%, or at 1,011 scholars. This is a 10% increase over 2016-17. Decatur High School Area 2 had the highest growth at 22% and the highest rate 77. We are excelling on this measure of progress. This data set shows the 2015-16, 16-17, and 17-18 FAFSA submittal rates for Federal Way compared to the state. The percentage 12th grade scholars submitting FAFSA during 17-18 school year for the state was 56%. The average for Federal Way Public Schools was 64%, and this is a 10% increase over 2016-17 rate and 8% points above the state. This increase indicates that we are excelling. Okay. The percent of 12th grade scholars submitting FAFSA, I think it's important to note here that we are third in our roadmap region with Seattle at 70% and Tukwila at 67%. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to James.
This college knowledge is so important, because if scholars head to their senior year and they don't know how to navigate the financial pathway to college, the college can be closed to them. So I think it's so important that we press on this one. The other thing, we had a report recently that talked about, and now I'm going to forget the percentage, but I want to say 70% of the jobs, you will need some form of post-secondary college education, even if you're going from some of the careers that I think people wouldn't have ever associated this with. And what we heard was that the recession, when the jobs came back, many of those jobs that came back required the workers to be skilled in technology in a way that they hadn't been before. So this notion around college and having it as an option is becoming more and more important. 2-year, 4-year, some form of post-secondary.
Absolutely. All right, our final measure of progress that we'll look at is an increase in high school graduation and decrease in our dropout rates. More specifically, the measure of progress will review 4-year graduation rates, the percent of scholars graduating from high school within 4 years of their 9th grade entry year. So what you're looking at, we're going to start to review the 4-year graduation rates by district and race. The graduation rate for Federal Way Public Schools for the 17-18 school year is 86%, which is an increase in 3 percentage points from the previous year. You'll see that all racial subgroups have increased graduation rates. Specifically, the Pacific Islander subgroup had the largest increase with 17 percentage point increase, and these increases indicate that we're excelling on this measure of progress. The greatest increase in the other subgroups was in our ELL subgroup, which increased 13 percentage points since last year, and over a 3-year period, that's about a 20% increase. This was an increase of about 45 scholars graduating on time. Another notation is that our special education population, their 5-year graduation rates have improved from 75% for the class of 2017 to 83 for the class of 2018. So that's about an 8% percentage point increase or improvement. You'll see on this slide that each comprehensive high school increased their graduation rates as well. Most schools are celebrating their highest rates ever, with Thomas Jefferson at about 90%. And for the class of 2017, Federal Way had the highest graduation rate in the roadmap region, which is a huge celebration. We're excelling on this measure of progress. Class of 2018 data is not yet available for the other districts. This last slide is a summary slide that shows at a glance how we are doing and progressing on each of our measures as that inform sub-ends 1. You'll see that we're excelling in each one of those measures, which is a huge celebration for us. In addition to this data, there were other pieces of data that we have been taking a look at lately. This particular graph shows our progress towards honors course taking. So this indicator shows the percent of high school graduates who by their 12th grade year took one or more AP, IB, or Cambridge courses. And you'll see that this reflects 71% of our scholars, with our percentage surpassing anyone in the roadmap region and third among the other districts.
So I want you to think about that when people think about what's going on in Federal Way. So there's South Seattle Schools, Highline, and then there's Federal Way, with scholars taking one or more of these advanced placement courses. Why this is important, I just got a data point that says 11.9 million new jobs were created from the recession. 11.8 million of those jobs went to those with post-secondary credentials. That's just hard data. That's where the jobs are going, and we have to pay attention to that.
Absolutely. This next piece of additional data indicates or reflects high school graduates meeting minimum course requirements to apply to a Washington State four-year college. Is that where I'm at?
Caters, is
Yeah,
what we call them.
thank you.
Mhm.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so basically what this is indicating is that 60% of our scholars meet this particular indicator, and it again is the third among roadmap districts.
What this really means, when you look at a transcript, when they leave, do they have a rigorous transcript that will allow them to be competitive at most of these competitive universities? And you can see again that we're right in the thick of things in terms of having scholars with these kinds of transcripts. What I will tell you, that's our work now. We're going to do better. We're actually going to add a metric that where we give scholars scores by the time they leave on the number of rigorous courses they have, and schools will be holding schools accountable for that so that we can really track this particular metric. You'll hear more. We'll do a study session with the board on this.
And then our last piece of additional data, which is quite interesting, shows our graduates who are enrolled in post-secondary education and the characteristics of their participation. When we look at persistence through college, pay close attention to the data that's under continuously enrolled. So in 2012, under that particular category, 77% of our scholars were continuously enrolled in a four-year post-secondary Washington public institution. In 2016, 81% of our scholars were continuously enrolled in that same category, the four-year post-secondary institution. So over time, the data is indicating that our scholars are persisting through their post-secondary four-year experiences.
I want to call your attention to something. There should be a highlight on this particular slide that I shared. So if you look at the enrollment in pre-college work, this is probably the most important part of this slide. You look at 2012, you see that 55%? 55% of our scholars who left Federal Way did some kind of pre-college or remedial coursework. You go to 2015, that was down to 34%. That's huge. What that says is they're actually leaving more prepared than they had been. So when people talk about preparation in Federal Way, that data and that metric is a really important one. So that speaks to the rigor of the experiences that they're getting. I think that's the real nugget of that particular data as well.
I think to add to that too, when students are taking those courses, they don't get credit for them as part of their college experiences, yet they still have to pay for them.
Very costly to families. They're basically paying for an extra year of college without much to show for it.
I remember sitting on the board 7 years ago and having the conversation about remediation and about what we need to be doing on this side so that young folks don't leave us and end up taking the very same classes that they think that they've passed here, they actually haven't. So to see outcomes on that is a great thing. Could I ask one, and just say one other thing, and that is on the AP, IB, and the Cambridge courses, and just again, we are the district that rolled out academic acceleration, and the idea that when we talk about opt-in and opt-out, the district that said any young person who passes that, of course, automatically goes into an honors or an IB or an AP class. And I think for a long time, there were people that we had many conversations about content being diluted and classes looking very different, when in fact the young people were there because they had a knowledge base. And to see outcomes like that proves the fact that it's giving young people opportunity and access. And it's not about opting in, it's about opting out.
That's right.
So I really appreciate the statistics that have borne what we already knew, and it is one way to change our, the academic and the educational inequities that exist in our system. So thank you.
And we're leading the region in number of scholars going to college, the most diverse district. I think that's another thing. There are a lot of points that we will be sharing with you, and we see ways that we are going to continue to go from good to great. That's what we've talked to our high school principals about.
And as you speak to that, this last slide kind of talks about what our next steps are. So in thinking about that, we'll be developing an early warning indicator dashboard in order for our central office leaders to partner with school teams, basically identifying scholars that need additional supports as early as possible. So the dashboard will allow us to identify the data that we need quickly in order to make sure that there's supports in place for our scholars. The next thing is to organize FAFSA and WASFA support and events, as well as our college-bound repledge activities, so that our scholars and our families are able to access funding supports to support their post-secondary experiences and opportunities. And then the last thing is continuing to provide graduation assurances so that all of our stakeholders are aware and can intervene early on behalf of scholars that are in jeopardy of not graduating on time. So those supports include site team meetings at the building level, principal meetings, and also dashboard enhancements. That summarizes up our presentation for tonight.
So any questions, board members?
No questions, just some takeaways. I quickly Googled the graduation rates in the United States in terms of college, and I had 20% in my mind, and it's correct. About 20% were going to college in the 1990s. And I think what Dr. Campbell is saying is we need to push kids toward college because the future is needing post-secondary degrees. And so I'm coming to appreciate a lot more this idea that college is really important and to raise the percentage of those that seek college. So I get the fact that people are thinking early in terms of college for the college-bound by middle school, and that they're thinking in terms of the financing through the FAFSA and WAFSA processes. I'm liking the fact that the ninth graders are on track to graduate and they're not getting off track and graduating at a higher rate. And I like the idea that there's more people taking rigorous coursework, that they're really challenging themselves, and that sets them up for future and a much better chance in college. So I think I already put in my comments relative to this ends, and I was talking about how maybe we ought to be focusing on the higher percentage that don't go to college, but the real message is we need to get more people to go to college. And so there's going to be those that are going to choose the military and whatnot, and they have to have a good basic education. But I'm coming to appreciate much more how much we need to push college education for our graduates.
And it could be 2-year, it could be 4-year. It doesn't always have to be 4-year, but it is some form of post-secondary. I mean, all the data about the recession says if you had any form of post-secondary education, you survived it, and the people who didn't. And so I just think it's important. And the jobs that are in the Puget Sound area, many of them require some form of 2-year, 4-year, or some type of training beyond high school, and that's what we're really pressing. And the last thing I'll say, you don't want children getting to their senior year having taken the kinds of coursework that doesn't give them a choice. If they get there and they choose not to, that's great. We don't want to choose it for them by not giving the kind of experiences where they have to take a career pathway because they didn't have the preparation.
I was just saying my experience has been oftentimes we track children into those places. So, and it's the nuance, to me, it's the idea that what a student decides should be a decision, not a track we put somebody in. And that the goal for every young person is to graduate with high school, with the choice and the options to have all of those opportunities open for them so they can choose, as opposed to saying, you look like, voc ed is for you, or not even a 2-year or 4-year. So for me, that's the nuance piece, because college may not be, but higher education and post-secondary is critically important, and we just need to make sure young people finish with those options open to them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, board members, our survey is included, so at the back of the packet for this, we need to go through and look at these. And so I can create a single voice document that we will approve at our next board meeting in January. Just to note, one thing I did do is take last year's, and so that is the number 4 response I took and just made some tweaks to them based on what was there, but just kind of what we did share last year. I'd also ask that yes answers aren't what we do going forward, because I can't make a single voice document out of yes answers. So I know some of you are new. Some of you that are old still answered yes, even though we've talked about it for years. So I'm open to any conversation, discussion, anything additional that should be considered in our single voice document.
I would just say that when we look at excelling and we look at the work, it says that we have a plan in place and the plan is working and we need to continue to work the plan. And that, so the yes is, one of those things where it's one of those areas where our data is showing us we're doing the right thing and we're measuring some of those right things to move forward. So, usually it's trying to figure out kind of where our next steps are, and the next steps are to continue to move the work that we've been doing and to see those increases. So this is one that, again, we should be very proud of as far as our, how much progress we've made and the outcomes for our young people.
Anything else? All right, I'll come back in January with a single voice document. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is design approach. Dr. Campbell.
Okay, I'd like to invite Michael Schwartz, Casey Moore, and our architects from McGranahan. They're going to talk to you about the design approach, specifically the feedback we got from the community. We want you to hear how many community voices came into play. They're going to share with you the approach we're going to take for that particular project, but then they're going to give you a sneak peek into what we mean about 2 buildings, shared spaces. Okay, take it away.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, board members, President Wilson, Dr. Campbell. My name's Casey Moore. I'm the Director of Capital Programs, and we want to inform you about our Star Lake Totem projects. So, how do I advance?
Do you see it? It should be a mouse under, there you go. There you go.
Say what? Click on this one right here?
Just click on it, the one that says,
Sorry.
there you go.
There we go. All right, quickly, I just wanted to review what the goals of our presentation are tonight. First, we wanted to review our guiding principles, some information we received back from our stakeholder engagement opportunities, and what those committees are, review our project goals, and review feasibility concepts and conclusions. And then we're going to talk to you about some of our next steps. So starting with our guiding principles, these are the basis of everything we do in the capital programs, and these evolved from the pre-bond planning that went on, and as we proceed on, we always are looking at every project and everything we do in the lens of these guiding principles. So some really important ones, I mean, they're all important, but right size, learner-centered, advancing our strategic goals, sustainability. These are things that we're always asking ourselves whenever we're meeting with any of the groups and asking stakeholders, we're asking ourselves, how are we doing in accomplishing those? Stakeholder voice. So we have several groups that we have organized to try to make sure that we're getting as much input as we can from our stakeholders. And we use a number of acronyms. This one we call DRC, Design Review Committee. And this group is the workhorse of our design process at each school. This group is made up of members from parents, staff, neighbors, and they're specific to the facility. We meet with them on a periodic basis, sometimes every other week, and we seek their advice as we progress through the design process. At Star Lake, the DRC began in the spring, meeting in 2017-18 school year, and as we brought in the totem project, we proceeded with that starting in December. Design Oversight Committee, this is a group we refer to as the DOC, and this is the people on this meeting, on this group, are made up of representatives across the school district, and we're trying to make sure that they are constantly looking at that lens of the guiding principles and making sure that what we're doing across all the projects is evenly applied. We have over 30 members on that group, and we've been holding meetings since March 5th of 2018. And the community, we've had 5 community meetings starting on May 18th with over 200 attendees. And this is just, what we're describing here is really just specific to the Star Lake and Totem projects. We've been doing the very same things on our Thomas Jefferson and our Mirror Lake, Lake Grove, and Wildwood projects too. So with that, what I'd like to do is introduce our architectural firm and the representative we have tonight, Aaron Winston, and I'm going to have him continue walking you through what we've been doing from a design. Aaron.
Before you talk, I just want to say the architects who are working on this, they have just done such a good job of listening and working with the district, and they understand how education works. I really have been impressed with them.
Thank you. We've enjoyed the process. It's been a very collaborative process with Casey and Michael. We wouldn't be where we are today without their help. So it's a team effort. So we just want to kind of keep you up to date on what we heard. Those meetings that Casey just outlined, we talked about a lot of things, and these are some of the themes that we heard: to minimize disruption of the school during operations, to make sure that these projects are walkable and safe for our kids and our families and our neighbors, to make sure that we improve the traffic flow. It's true for all neighborhood schools, but these ones, it's pretty difficult. To preserve the open green space and trees. If you're familiar with the site, you would know that that's worth preserving. To improve the access for community use, and to make sure that the building scale fits the neighborhood. These are themes that we've heard as we've been listening to these committees. While we were meeting with them, we were also conducting a feasibility study. So what you see on the screen is our work looking at all of the different areas of the site in which we could build these schools. We showed these to those committees and to the community, and we got feedback on that. We asked them for their preferences and their opinions, pros and cons. You can see that in the percentages, which ones were preferred, which ones were not. So as we continued on the feasibility study, some of them turned out to be requiring a remodel, or they didn't fit within our budget. So the remodels were not equitable with other projects on the bond. Obviously, if the project is over budget, it's not feasible. So what we came to is option B was the number one preferred scheme for the teaching and learning and meeting those goals that I just outlined, but also on budget. There were some important things of those other schemes that we wanted to bring forward. So at a community presentation on November 7th, we brought forward 2 options: option B, which was that preferred scheme, and another option, option F.1, which was very similar to B, but there was no shared spaces. And so we outlined all of the different components of this design in that presentation, and we gave each participant a dot, and that represented their preference. What you can see on the right is the breakdown of who was at that meeting, and then here are their preferences. What we did as a design team then, obviously the option B was the preferred choice, 2 schools with shared spaces. So that concluded our pre-design, and we began exploring design of the building with our design review committee just last week. So you can see images here. We're asking them to explore and to give us information. How can this school help them achieve their goals? So what they did is they arranged the school with these pieces. There were 5 groups in this meeting. Each group was 6 to 8 members. And then they shared back with the whole committee.
So just to go back to that other one right there. So at this point, the group knows it's 2 schools with shared space. So now the question is, what's shared? And that's what this is about. They're trying to come to some conclusions, some common consensus around what's shared between the 2 schools.
Yes. So with an architectural lens, we start to understand what it is they're telling us in their efforts. And we took those 5 designs that they put together as small groups, and we are currently going to bring back these 3 concepts for the next round of feedback. What we plan to do with these is to break them down into each component of the school, be it gym or commons or music, and ask them, is this what you said to us? So I'll walk you through these 3 so that you understand what we're going to do with.
I wanted him to share this with you, board members. They're sharing it for the first time with the DRC, but I thought the board should at least see the concepts. So where they land, it might be a hybrid of 2 and 3, but I think it's important for you to at least visualize what we talk about when we're talking about with shared space, okay? So let's look at concept 1.
So concept 1 takes into the idea of what if we were to save as much green open space as possible with a compact form. And what you can see is there are 2 gyms, there are 2 commons, there are 2 administration, 2 entries, but they share in the purple, that represents the shared space. So the purple is the Family Connection Center. It was unanimously preferred to be shared because of the benefits they saw in the culture of the school, working with families, vertical teaming. I could go on and on about the benefits that we've talked about. So you can see the arrangement of some of those pieces, and we're going to get pros and cons of this. In concept 2, you can see that there are 2 distinct entries, 2 family connection centers, 2 LRCs, learning resource centers, still 2 gyms, 2 commons, and 2 core learning areas of the school. And then concept 3, you can read the different arrangements there. We have a core learning arrangement, which is group levels. In this one, we have commons. When we use the term adjacent in our meetings, what we mean is the commons, they're next to each other with an operable wall so that each school can run independently during the day, but after school hours, if you wanted to open that wall and have a large gathering, that's possible. So we're kind of having our cake and eating it too in a way. All of these schemes will share some infrastructure facilities, the kitchen, the custodial spaces, the mechanical system, and the spaces associated with that. Those are kind of a given. Any questions? I went through that rather quickly.
No, I'm just curious, in building early learning centers, when there's 2 funding sources, people will say we have to have 2 doors, one for this funding source and one for this funding source. And families enter the same door. And I'm just curious around the admin. I see a family space, but I'm curious around the admin spaces being separate. And the fact that if you've got more than 1 child, it still would mean you have to go to one office to do one thing and perhaps one office to do the other. And that while that may be a benefit to staff, it's not a benefit to families who have to go 2 different places to get 2 different yellow forms. And so as we think about joint space, I would like to encourage us to continue to put families at the center of what we're asking them to do and where we're asking them to go. And I know a lot of the conversation around 2 buildings have come from families, but not a majority of families, a very minority, small group of families. And in that neighborhood, families come with more than one child. And I would just like us to continue to think about what a shared service looks like, not from a staff's perspective, but from a parent perspective and the kinds of things we're asking parents to do, whether it's attendance or whatever it is. Those things don't differ. The age of the kids change, but your parent name stays the same. The yellow forms are the same, and it just seems like it would cause us to look like we're duplicating systems, and you have two sets of people to have to get to know and to figure out what's right and what's rude for. So I'm just putting my 2 cents in there and thought I'd do it on the dais.
Thank you. Any other comments?
So I just want to thank the team for all your work to listen and help and guide. I mean, I'm glad to see that we're to this decision. I know for me as an individual board member, and I think for many board members that have been involved, that the shared space made a lot of sense. So I'm glad to see that we're there and appreciate all your effort and work as we continue to move forward. So I guess in this proposal, we're leaving them on site. We can do it and build and leave the 2 schools on site?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so we are building and leaving, and so there won't be any displacement in this proposal as well.
Right.
So that is actually another bonus on top of it, so thank you.
That was the curious aspect of this survey that was taken. What was the advantage that folks saw, 18%, in terms of moving totem children off-site? What was driving that?
Can you answer it? Without going back, what I believe is that the 18% option was not sharing spaces. So there was just, I think, some confusion and concern around that confusion. So as we've moved forward, I think it's gotten clearer. The opportunities have been more apparent, and you saw the vote.
If I may add one more
Yeah.
comment to that. So if you'll notice that, so in the option that was 18%, that was over budget, and the reason it was over budget because we had to move totem off-site. That's why when we presented with 2 other options, and we came up with F.1, we presented Star Lake moving off-site. We could move Star Lake off-site because we will have a facility for them and there would be a cost impact. That's why that option fit on budget. And it was interesting that percentages on that second scenario were almost the same. So we presented them an option that gave them 2 buildings, and we presented an option that had shared space. And again, the favor was definitely in favor of the shared space. But we did present a budget, on-budget option with 2 separate schools.
I appreciate that, because I would have presumed that those 18% were just local community members that would rather not have more traffic during that period.
So I get to talk just a little bit about next steps, and one of the things that I wanted to say is that we get to present this information about these 3 kind of options to the Design Review Committee tomorrow and have them weigh in on it. We actually get to bring them to a community meeting. And while we didn't show the totem, we met with the totem staff today for a staff meeting, and we didn't show them those 3 options. They are very anxious to begin the conversations on what are those shared spaces, what can those shared spaces be, and they have a lot of ideas about that. So you can see here kind of what our next steps are, 3 concepts in the month of December, final concept working towards in the month of January. And one other thing that's not up here that's pretty exciting that's going to happen in the month of January is we are going to start our Star Lake Totem Scholar DRC. And we have a full day where the architect team will be at both schools and meeting with groups of students at every grade level and getting their feedback and input as we go through the 3 concepts and towards the final concept. So that's a pretty exciting thing that's going to happen at Star Lake and Totem, and we're working on it towards the other projects too, Mirror Lake Wildwood, Thomas Jefferson as well, and we'll have that happening, so we're getting that scholar voice in there. And then I think that is our thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, last item on the agenda, Director Eto, Board Meeting Assessment.
Okay, just for the context, the first goal is in terms of policy governance, quality improvement, and wanting to make sure that we review our ends, do some board work, that people are prepared when they come in. And I think the important feature of this meeting was the fact that we did an in-progress review of ends 1. There's preparation done in advance with the work studies, so everyone is prepared. So we've really become much more efficient in terms of these meetings, because some of these used to be a real slog. The other portion of this was in terms of our ability to engage with the public. This last briefing in terms of the totem design, that was the most controversial project, and I tended to follow that the most. And it's great to see the community, understanding how their input is being used. And so to get this preparation in advance so that if we are engaged, that we're understanding of the issues, that we're cohesive as a board and aligned with the superintendent, that's really important. So I think those two things were important for this meeting. In terms of cohesiveness and thoughtfulness of the board, I think it was outstanding. We stayed at the policy level. There wasn't a lot of things into the weeds, or not any that I could even cite. So in terms of an improvement process for superintendent support, I would say that our process has generally been work study and then board. And we've already been shown the results of the audit on special education. So I would have expected that would have been some of the board work, but maybe we had the elections and such to take care of. But in terms of improvement, that would be what I would say was missing in terms of our normal process, because we go work study to board in terms of our briefings. In terms of being able to discuss and be free in terms of our thoughts, the board members who are new, they should understand that they have their one-on-one sessions with the superintendent. The work studies are a good time to share your views, anything that you've been told from the community, and of course the retreat that you all were able to attend and I was not due to illness. Those are the opportunities that you have to be able to convey back to the other board members within the Open Public Meetings Act so that they understand what your view from the community is telling you. And so this board meeting is for board work and not the place to do that sort of thing, and I'm glad that we stayed away from the weeds.
Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you. And actually on time, 3 minutes early.